Hey everyone, welcome back and welcome to Asiana Pose. We have a wonderful guest today. Sundeep, could you describe yourself to the Asiana Pose community?
Sure, right. First of all, thank you for having me here. Hello, Asiana Post community. It's an honor to be here and talk to you about my journey and all the cool things that we would be discussing today. My name is Sundeep. I come from an IT background. I've been in the United States for a little over 11 years now. I've been in the IT space for a little over 15 years now. In the last 4 years, I've been pretty actively involved in the new technology, which we call it as blockchain. I have implemented some of the pretty good applications, working on different clients. So today I'm here to talk everything that I know about blockchain and NFTs and everything that goes into making a successful blockchain product.
Wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, let's go really into the very explanation of cryptocurrency and blockchain. And we know that there's different types of currency out there. So let's keep it not as technical for the non-technical people that are listening, especially the elderly. Go right ahead.
Right, thanks, Ed. So, yeah, I think one thing that I wanted to add to this one, right? I have an 8-year-old, and I have started talking to blockchain about it. And even in our IT space, we have been always taught and trained on how do you actually explain it to a 5-year-old. So I'll try to do the same thing here that I'm trying to do with my kid, and so far it's been good. So to give a background before we start talking about what blockchain is, a quick primer of how the technology was prior to blockchain. So think of blockchain as one big file where you are writing all your transactions. In traditional, we as developers, we define what gets into a transaction log. But in a blockchain, everything happens on this ledger. So when everything happens on an open book, now you have the ability to go back in time and check and verify who has made a transaction at what time, and it is always there in the blockchain. So this is what we call as the immutable nature of blockchain, meaning it cannot be changed. So this is the primary difference between traditional applications and the blockchain. Though the terminology and the actual usage of a blockchain is nothing new. We have been using ledgers from a very, very, very long time. There are lots of companies who have built the product only based out of ledger. But with blockchain and the decentralized nature of blockchain is what really helps pick up all these smaller pieces and try to make a good product, which can be verified by anyone, which is out there in the blockchain. There is a lot of transparency now because no one controls anything. So there are all these different advantages when you move or when you think about a blockchain based world.
Okay, so basically, blockchain in the simplest matter is the check and balances, correct?
uh, in a simplistic way, yes. It is a book of your checks and balances where you have every transaction that gets in, you have every transaction that goes out, and at any point of time you can always go back in time and figure out the lineage, like where was this transaction actually occurred.
Got it. So why did somebody created this technology?
That's a very good question. And so if you look at the main challenges of technology that we have, and rather, right, whenever you talk about technology, the very first thing that anyone would think about is Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon. These are the 4 or 5 companies that by default, when you say you are into IT, the first notion is you have these different companies. So what it has happened is over a period of years, again, these are amazing companies, they do some very great products out there, but then they are the ones who have a very big market share. So when we talk about very big market share, it is very difficult for especially anything new to happen to overcome the success, or you are always looked at being successful as Amazon or as Facebook. So when you look at any brand new companies that come out there, I think it's becoming a very how to call it, like a very different scale of comparison. So because of this, right, there is a need, and as there is always an evolving need of change. So people started looking into different options. So this is where back in 2008 or late 2009 was where again we don't even know who the actual person was, but then there was a white paper that was released, which which in detail explain about what a blockchain is, how can we actually use to build applications, and which is always there, it cannot be changed. So meaning you cannot fraud the system because it's always there on the blockchain. So the white paper that was released back in early 2008 2009 is the actual basis of all this new technology trend that we are seeing.
Amazing. Okay. So, with that being said, this is not just a technology for future currency. It could be used in different type of application, correct?
Yeah. So this is also one big thing. Whenever we start talking about blockchain, the very first thing that everyone thinks is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an example. Bitcoin is what started everything. So basically, right? You have Bitcoin, which is based out of a white paper that was released by some unknown person, and the main thing it was attractive back then was of the limited nature of the product. You had only 21 million coins, and it had a deflationary mode of how you can actually mint these coins. So that made it much more valuable. But then, when you look at the actual blockchain, cryptocurrency is part of the blockchain. The currency that is associated to a blockchain is a way how you reward the users of your blockchain. But then, as you rightly said, on a blockchain you can build applications without any cryptocurrency.
Wow. Yeah, I thank you so much for clearing that subject, because a lot of people do think that it's just, when they think of blockchain, is Bitcoin. Now, going to, since you pointed out about Bitcoin, what other currencies are out there, since we're on this topic of blockchain?
Yeah. So when you look at the primary currencies, right, you have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, you have ADA or Cardano, and then you have a bunch of altcoins. And in the most popular altcoin is Dogecoin. And why is it popular? Because it is backed by Elon Musk. Back in the day, Elon and the other fellow developer, they were playing with the blockchain technology, and they just created this coin. So this coin did not have any kind of a utility, meaning there is no real world use case that you can use back in the day. It was just created for fun, and then it grew in popularity. Now with the latest tweet that, if you have noticed, from Mr. Musk, he wants to accept Tesla car payments with Dogecoins. So now we are adding real life utility to these coins, which were of zero or to no value at all back in the day. Then the other trend that we are seeing right now is what we call as meme coins, or in the other words, we also call them as shit coins. So why you call them as meme coins is because they are like 100 billionth of a fraction of a dollar in value. So when you look at it one way, from a spending standpoint, people are hesitant to spend $40,000 to buy a Bitcoin. It is practically not possible. So when you say, okay, for $10 you get a billion tokens of, say, Shinja coin, that makes it more attractive. So when you look at the market adoption, so the risk factor, right? Back in the day when people bought Bitcoin for, say, $10, $15, they have seen very high growth. So now everyone is looking at that kind of a precedence. We'd want to start at something very small, and then hopefully it will grow. So that's where it's like you break it down into primarily the important coins, and then you have all your altcoins, and then the meme coins or the shit coins. And the shit coins, there is no end to it. There are, every other day there is so many shit coins which are getting released, and which also causes a lot of concern from a buyer standpoint. Like, even though you want to spend only $10, now there are 10 projects, so you already spent $100. So you have to be really careful of what is it that you are looking at and how do you want to spend it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And so, how would you categorize these currency Would it be like a gold? One is gold, one is um, oil, or one is silver, or how would you, for a big picture, for a person that's especially the elder community, how would you differentiate it?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've really understood, and it helps me when in my conversations, is you cannot really compare this to anything, because gold, coal, any other resources that you're talking, it's natural resources. You you know that there is a finite amount there. It cannot be infinite. But then it takes a lot of time for you to even get to it. And we have all heard crazy stories about uh, kingdoms having tons of gold, but then it's not proven. This, however, right, we are actually talking about technology. It is all about technology, which is associated with a coin. So that makes it much more valuable, because the value of the coin lies in the project that you are building on the blockchain, and it's not the other way around.
Can you repeat that again one more time?
The value of the coin that you are referring to is only dependent, or will only increase based on the project that you are building on blockchain. It is not the other way around. So now, instead of thinking of it as, so when I buy gold, I am not looking at how was it done, how was this coin actually made and stuff. I check the quality of gold and I buy, and I store it. I give it in my bank, and I expect or anticipate that over a period of time it will grow and I can use it for something else. Even Bitcoin is the same, but the only difference is now we are backing by technology. So I'm looking at a company, I'm looking at a product, I'm looking at their white paper to understand what is it that they are planning to do with this technology. Based on that technology, that the technology is what I'm investing in. When I'm investing in, as a reward, they give me what you call as a tokens or coins. So this is the difference. And one other difference, right? There's a difference between token and coin. A coin is something that you can mint. Mint in the sense, you must have heard of all these Ethereum rigs, the mining pools that we call. So basically, Ethereum works on a principle of proof of work, meaning any transaction that you have, there needs some amount of work that has to be done, and the workers are called miners here. They are the actual ones who say, okay, Sundeep is transferring X dollars to Ed. They are the ones who first check the transaction, who will make sure that Sundeep, yes, he has the X dollars to transfer. They'll check if Ed is all proper, the wallet address that I have is all proper, and then this work. So this additional work that they have to do is called proof of work. So now you can imagine, right? In a coin, now you need to have a mining resource pool who are actually doing this activity day in, day out. And for this, they get what we call as a gas fees. So they get paid fees to do this work.
So can you go back and repeat that again about the gas fees? Because I think a lot of people are a little bit confused on that. But thank you so much for pointing that out there.
No problem. So think of it this way: when you have to go do a transaction, let me give you a very simple example. Right? Think of you ordering Uber. You order Uber Eats. You place the order. The Uber guy comes and gives you the delivery. You give him a service charge. You pay him with tip. So that is his proof of work. The proof of work was the whatever order that you gave, he made sure that the order is correct. He made sure that he brought it on time. That is the proof of work. And you actually have the food in your hands. So that is the proof of work for which you have given him a service charge or tip in one way. Now think of it in a world where you don't know who you are sending this information to. There is a big pool of people who are actually sitting behind the scenes in computers, just like us here. And the only purpose that they do is, they look at transaction and they want to be sure that, this transaction can happen on the blockchain. So this is the work that they do. And as a reward for the work that they do, we pay them the gas fees. So now, as you can imagine, as in case of grocery, I can go to Walmart when I place an order. I can expedite it by, I think Walmart has got some 3 options there now, Walmart Plus, where I can go and I can expedite it. So you pay more, you get better service. The same concept works on gas. So even when you make a transaction, say we are transferring funds between each other, we can go ahead and determine or set a gas fee. The more the gas fee, the better the chances are for the miner to pick up, because it's more valuable for them. So say I'm looking at a transaction with a greater gas fee, I'll first take that piece, finish up that work, and then get into the ones which are of low gas fees. But then one thing that you have to understand is, in any proof of work technology, most primarily and most commonly it's Ethereum, but in any proof of work blockchain technology, everything is based on transactions. So when you think of everything is based on transactions, think of everything that needs to be attested, everything has to be verified by a pool of people, and the gas money is actually for them to get the work done.
Makes sense. Wow. Thank you so much for clearing that up. You know, there's a lot of people out there that's doesn't have that understanding.
I know, and it's been crazy, right? When you look at all these recent coin drops, which happened, the recent NFTs, that people went in and they want to purchase. So it's all on the demand. So at that point of time, I've seen personally, I've seen some cases where there were times I spent, like say for a transaction, I spent anywhere from $50 all the way to $250, and in some weird cases, I have seen it go as high as $2,500. So it really comes down to at that exact point of time, what are all the transactions that are happening. Plus, it's still not clear, to be honest, right? It's not straightforward, like why these gas prices rocket all of a sudden. One thing, from a human understanding, human nature, we understood that it's all supply versus demand. At that point, when you launch a new project which is already hyped up, now people are willing to pay as much gas as possible, as much fees as possible. So I think that's how it's playing. It's still playing with the human emotions, but then it's a different way how you look at it. There is lots of components, small components, which is not completely decentralized. We are still doing the same things that we are doing in decentralized world. This demand versus supply is what plays everything out.
So yeah, let's make it simplify it for other listeners. What do you mean by centralized and decentralized?
Okay, so think of it this way: if you by centralized, the very popular example is banks. Okay, so when you have to make a transfer, when you have to bank is the one who holds your currency. The bank balance that you see in your app, it's a digital number. That's not the actual cash. So the actual cash or the money that you have is being held by the bank. So they are the central repository. They are the ones who control how many bills should be printed, which countries would be getting whatever country currency that they have to do. Plus everything has to go via the banking system, meaning if you have to do a transfer, it has to go through an authorized bank source. Unless the bank approves it, you cannot do a wire transfer. So now you are dependent on these banks. I would say not dependent, but then you are running your process against a centralized authority which controls everything. So now when you decentralize it, meaning there is no single point of I would say single point of source where you have to run your process against. In a decentralized world, everyone acts as owners. By everyone meaning, so think of it this way. Right now we have say 10-15 people here. Of these 15 people, everyone is working on as a miner. So basically everyone has got a vote each. Okay, we have been doing this even from a very long time. It's very common practice back in the rural areas where every household gets to vote, and by voting meaning it's like every household has one vote. So everyone gathers in under a big tree. They talk about a problem, they recommend a solution, and then they take votes. It's as simple as that. So what it does is, now you are not depending on a CEO of a bank to determine what should be the solution. You are actually reaching out to these 15 people out here. You are telling them the problem, and they are the ones who are voting against. So now with this way, even from a technology standpoint, it makes it much more easier from a CEO standpoint. When you look at problem solving, it makes it much more simpler. But then the other thing that you would lose is the control. So right now you have this 8-10 board of directors sitting in one room and making $1 billion calls. Whereas in the other way, you are now looking at 1,000 people who are just voting, and if it is more than 51%, as in any other voting kind of a concept, it gets approved.
Got it. So would you consider Coinbase, other crypto.com, are they centralized or decentralized?
So that's a good question, right? So basically, when you look at Coinbase, I'll tell you, with Coinbase, the advantage or disadvantage. First one is it is an exchange. Okay. So as part of an exchange, they do not do KYC. KYC is a know your customer. So basically, the moment
Repeat that again.
KYC is called know your customer.
Okay.
Meaning, I'm giving all my details, like my profile information, as in a bank. When I go create a bank account, I give them all the details. Coinbase also, Coinbase was supposed to do that, but then they stopped. So, for example, the other exchange is Kraken. So, if you have to go open an account in Kraken, you need to have an SSN. They will know every information. Again, it's financial, it makes sense. But then, in one way to see, yes, they are centralized exchanges. They have access to your thing. The only thing that they do not control is when you have your money, you're not actually waiting for Kraken to give you an approval to move this money to do something. So basically, it is in your wallet. Technically speaking, it is not in your wallet because Kraken and Coinbase, they are the ones who create and own their wallets. Basically, for us, it's like any other digital form where in my app I can see that there is this big number out there, which is my wallet address, and I see my balances in it. But then they are still controlling it. But then the one good thing about this one is, in Coinbase now has made it much more safer in one way because it's popular. It's been widely used by a lot of people.
So there's more accountability.
There's more accountability. There is of course Coinbase was also hacked a couple of times, but then the way they have handled, the way they came out from the hack was very good. So that creates a sense of accountability. So when you have that accountability, I am now, instead of spending $10, I am okay to spend $100. So that's how they change the game because as long, and the other big thing, right? If you go to Twitter crypto today, every other day you will see that there is some notification of a rug pull. Rug pull meaning some bad, ill-minded person, they went ahead and created a token. Okay, they said, okay, if you buy this digital art or say this token, this is our roadmap. In the next 6 years, we will take you to the moon, and people buy it. Okay, because either going by the FOMO that we call, the fear of missing out, as anyone, right? And this is very common. Think of the IPOs. Okay, back in the day when Tesla did an IPO, I still feel I should have bought into the IPO. It's like it's the same thing. So when anything new comes in, whenever new comes in, the whole idea is it is cheap to begin with, and then we have our faith in the CEO or the owner who will run this company and make sure we get our benefits. Everyone is in it for the money. The same thing happens even with cryptocurrencies, but then 90% of the time, unfortunately, especially on the shitcoins, where you do not have a proper dev team or a dedicated dev team, not say proper, but a dedicated dev team, who runs the plan, that was laid out. Most of the time, we see that it ends up in either a developer taking off the money, from the liquidity pool, or the owner, he himself, takes the money and he disappears. So this has been challenging, right? So this, even those $10 people, who want to spend those $10, now even they are scared because it's hard-earned money. It doesn't matter if you're losing $10 or $100. It's hard-earned money, and no one would like to lose money.
Okay, that's a very, very good conversation and explanation. Now, make it more vague as much as possible for the listeners. Is back in the days, there's this technology that's called Napster, right? That's a peer-to-peer. Would you sort of clearly speak to as in that's decentralized? Would that be a version of decentralized for the people out there?
So anything peer to peer, okay, it is a form of decentralized. Because again, even now with blockchain, we are not doing, as I said, we are not doing anything rocket science. This is not like never has been done before. But then the beauty of this is, the way things are actually captured, it gave more, I would say, organization. So previously with peer-to-peer, even though it is peer-to-peer, meaning, I will not handle, there's not one single source which handling, this 10,000 different calls. Instead, I will distribute it, and each one will handle 10 different calls. So in that way, I'm doing a very proper load balancing. But then the way it was set up is different. So that still, made, I would say, like a funnel, right? So you still have, your 100 people, but then it's always funneled. So, and most of the issues is at the funnel. So we never really could get across the peer-to-peer. So that's why, peer-to-peer is not a very, very, very common technology. When you look at it, we don't, and as enterprise architects, we don't recommend this a lot. It really comes down to a very specific use case. But with blockchain, it made it much more simple, because everything is on the block. Everyone is seeing the same transaction, and everyone has the same power. So when you say everyone has the same power, that oversimplifies things in some ways, because I am looking at the same code base or the same work that you are looking, and thousands of others are looking. So for me to fool you, I would have to fool 50% of the people, which is practically not possible. So now when a transaction comes in, I look at the transaction, you are looking at the transaction, and we both start working on the transaction. I finish it off first. Yes, I get my reward, the gas fee, and then this transaction gets written into the blockchain, making it permanent. So once it is permanent, basically, you will see it, all the remaining 1,000 people will see it. In that way, it is permanent in the blockchain. So it's a fundamentally a different way how you can log these transactions. And then the most important thing is the ability to go back in time and figure out the entire chain, where it is transforming from. So this is the primary reason why it makes it much more beneficial to have a decentralized way, because you can use this in a lot of applications. Like, we'll be talking about the applications pretty soon, but I can tell you, there's so many different applications that can use and benefit from this technology.
Yeah, we will talk about that on the next episode. My question is that what about privacy on the blockchain? Some people are very private people, and if they want to make a transaction, oh God, it's gonna be all over the blockchain, and it's gonna be difficult for me. How do you explain that for those other people that in that category?
Yeah, I think privacy is a very concerning thing, right? Again, with privacy, one thing about blockchain is, in a blockchain, even though I know your wallet address, even though I know you have, from this wallet address, you have been transferring $1 million every day for the last 30 days. I can keep a track of it. But then there is no way for me to go ahead and map that wallet address to a name. So if you talk about privacy, yes, the privacy is still intact.
Thank you for explaining that. That's
again, I'm simplifying it, but you get the idea. So there is privacy, but then it is not completely private, because it's all out there in the transaction log. So if someone would really want to figure out how to go about doing this, there are certain ways how you can come up with. But then it's not like it's not out of the box. You need to know what you are doing to get the answers that you're looking for. But then I would say there is privacy, plus I think the other important reason why even we call them whales in the crypto space, right? People with large amount of money. When you look at the way they transact, okay, again, going through a bank, if I have to say send $1 million to my friend back in India, it makes it much more complex. Now with the help of the the blockchain technology, I can transfer any amount of money within 10 minutes max. And in some blockchains it is like real time.
That's actually the next question I was going to ask you, is the efficiency and the speed of this blockchain.
Yeah. So again, we all go by Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, as I said, Bitcoin was the the example, the mother of all the coins, right? So from Bitcoin, the only thing that we have from a technology standpoint, the only thing that we really learned is how to use blockchain. But then it was actually Ethereum which took it to a different level, where Ethereum, again, it goes by the same concept of Bitcoin, of the blockchain technology. They came out with their own chain. So when you talk about efficiency, right? Again, this goes by the traditional way of how we do the open source code. Today, I go to GitHub, I find a code that I would like. I take the code, and then I write my own custom logic on top of it. And this is open source. Everyone has been doing this for a lot of years. GitHub is super popular for this. I have a code, I go drop it into GitHub. You can come look at the code, comment on the code, and we can start collaborating. That's how open source works. Even here with the blockchain, there are so many different blockchains right now, and the most important things are, of course, the Bitcoin. You have Ethereum, you have Solana, you have Algorand, and then right now, with the boom of NFTs, almost every other NFT company is planning to have their own blockchain. So what blockchain has done is it has given you, I would say, wings, where you can really take a piece of code and make it fit, or I would say make it custom fit to your product, to your business model. I think that's been key thing, because when you look at the actual, I would say, again, I'm getting a little technical, but then when you look at it from a code standpoint, right, it is the same set of code piece that you are taking, and you can play around with this in your own way. It has been very powerful.
And enhancing it.
Enhancing it.
Into your industry that you need to.
So that's what, right? You can think about a use case. You can now, start making a copy of a blockchain and fine tune it to match with your use case alone, and launch a separate chain. So it's becoming like second nature to it, and I can only imagine the next 2 to 3 years, all major companies would have their own blockchain. The companies, the firms that I represent, they are planning for, I would say, an internal blockchain that we would want to use, because not everyone would want to have everything in public. There are some private things that we have to do, and there are some blockchains out there which provide 100% privacy too. It's not open source. You have all your privileges and all your access rights, but then it gives you an additional level of privacy.
Wow, thanks for explaining that. And I think back, I was doing some research or reading, and I came across that IBM was touching the blockchain, or they made it better. Is that true, or is that? Have you heard something like that? And other companies were working on the blockchain to make it better.
So again, right? IBM, Microsoft, AWS, Amazon, Google. They are like front runners in technology. So the very fact that I know this technology now, I am sure they might have been aware of this at least 1 to 5 years prior, because they are so well equipped. They use the latest and the greatest. They know which is out there. So with that being said, have they been really popular with their blockchain offering? I would say not a lot. Right now, I cannot go to AWS or one of these big fan companies that we call them and readily use their blockchain, because it doesn't give me the flexibility that I can have when I go via the open source route. So, but then things will definitely change. I can only imagine, they'll come out with the best blockchain. But then the other thing, right, now with the blockchain, we have made it very custom, and it is very unique for this particular use case. And the big companies, they cannot start shipping out, okay, this is for Ed, this is for Sundeep. They cannot do that. They want to have one consolidated package and say, okay, you can do these 10 use cases with this one. But then if I have 11th use case, I cannot use it because blockchain doesn't let me do that.
Yeah, it's not as robust.
It's not. Yeah, it is robust, but then
in
when,
their industry.
yeah, when you make it custom, when you
Yeah.
make it, for my use case,
Yeah.
that becomes challenging. So I think that is the reason why they are not like getting into creating a blockchain. Instead, they are all focused on the sorry, they're all focused on the lens, they're all focused on the metaverse. So I think it is still part of blockchain, but then not the regular blockchain that we use.
Wow, there's so many discussion that me and you are gonna be talking in the future, and I can't really wait for that, for those episodes. You touched on NFT. So in a large scale, and let's explain real quick to the community, the NFT. What is that about? And it's why is people going, crazy about that? And also, for those people that are listening that hasn't heard NFTs, if you could please explain it to them.
Absolutely. So NFTs in the term stands for non-fungible tokens. So think of it this way, right? You go to Google, you get an image, say happy birthday image, the banner that I want for my daughter's birthday. Today I go in, I right click, I save, and then I print out, and I can use that for my purpose. Again, it's a very small thing. It's between me and my friends. So of course, we are not talking about copyright violations and all that stuff. But then I don't own it. So tomorrow, if whatever image that I have, and say I'm using it publicly, I made big banners out there and I'm started using it, I'm sure I'll get a call or an email from someone which say, hey, you are using our copyright, you are using, and it's our copyright. So that gets into all these copyright laws and stuff. So basically with an NFT, the whole idea was, though you are looking at an image which is nothing but a JPEG, just any other image that you can look at. When you actually buy an NFT, you are owning a piece of the company. So when you say a piece of the company, in other words, you have become a shareholder. So as any other shareholder, now you have rights. Rights meaning voting rights. Rights meaning getting dividends. So in an NFT space, so basically it was created thinking of the artist in the center. Okay. So when you think of an artist, and now for an artist, if I have to really shine, I need to work with, I'm always thinking I need to associate with bigger players then. I need to work with XYZ, only then I'll become popular. So lot of artists have gone through a very rough scale of trying to find that success. Many of them couldn't make it, most of them made it. But then the process is the same. You are a new artist or an old artist, you still have to find your niche. Okay. In an NFT space, what really happened is now it opened doors for the artist, where I can hop onto a Twitter space. I can talk about what inspired me to come out with this art, and I'm directly talking to my fellow audience who might be art collectors, who might be fellow artists. So now I'm having that direct interaction. Plus, as part of owning that company, the whole idea of NFT is the concept of royalty. Royalty is again nothing uncommon. We have artists always get royalties, but then depending on the deal, it really changes, and your popularity. Here with the NFT world, the one thing that is good is they have standardized the way you can get royalty. By standardized meaning, say for example, I have say my artwork which is on OpenSea. OpenSea is another marketplace where, think of it like Facebook ads. You get into Facebook, you can post your ads.
Is that centralized or decentralized?
So even with OpenSea, right? So if you look at it one way, OpenSea does not take your information. Okay, OpenSea only needs a wallet address. So basically, OpenSea wouldn't know who is this profile. So basically, OpenSea is decentralized in one way, where you can actually go in, you do your transaction, you come out. Okay, it's all based on a wallet. There is no KYC. You don't need to send them any other information and whatnot. The point that I was trying to get at was, for the NFT now, you have given a good reason for the holders to actually buy your product, because you are saying in my roadmap now, I'm having XYZ drops. If you are holding for 6 months, I can give you some other merchandise for free. So from an artist standpoint, I'm looking at this from a loyalty standpoint, and now have the direct customer interaction that I can use. So I think this has been a very good piece. When you talk about the successful projects out there on the NFTs, I think this has been the driving factor, where all the artists, big, small, everyone is treated kind of equally. Of course, it's a lot. It again comes down to supply versus demand. But then we have seen a lot of new artists come in this space and been pretty successful.
So the NFT basically will help musician as well
Yes.
in that aspect.
That's a very good segue, right? So NFTs, though it was started as art and essentially for artists, and whenever we say artists, 90% of the time it gets into painters. Most of the time it's a painter.
Yes.
But then NFTs can be used for anything and everything. You talk about music, you talk about restaurant reservations, you talk about library membership cards. I'm pretty sure tomorrow there would be a time where my office badges would actually be NFTs.
Wow, we're gonna be talking a lot, a lot of topics next coming episodes. I just can't really wait to break it down more. But go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ed. So yeah, I think the way how you're looking at real world problems and how can this be solved using blockchain, and now NFTs have become a very what to say, visual way. How you can visualize. Okay, this is what I'm getting. This it could be a piece of art, it could be a piece of music, or it could just be a card. Okay, so think of it this way. Any of your let's take an example. Summits. We have the tech summits that we do go. Annually we go to tech summits. You go to different booths. In different booths, you get what you call either a goodie bag or a sticker. It is like you have attended the class, so that's why it's a reward. In the future, what would happen is we call them POAPs. POAP stands for Proof of Attendance Protocol. Right? It is like sticker. Okay. So the very fact that you have attended my conference, I will give you this POAP, which is right now signed in blockchain.
Okay.
So one use case that I can think of is if someone comes to me in the next 3 years and he says, I've been very active in blockchain space, I can ask him, okay, do you have any POAPs? Have you attended any events? Because I know if you have attended, you will have a POAP.
Wow.
So this is just one example. Right? There is no end to, you can imagine any kind of use case, very basic use cases that you can, and you can really make it powerful. So just think of it this way, right? Today in tech space, it's extremely challenging for us to get good resource. Okay, everyone's resume is top notch because I think everyone follows a pattern or a standard. The resume is top notch. The references are okay. So unless we get them on board and start working with them, we don't really know what can they come out with. There has been cases in that way. So with these kind of digitally acclaimed certificates, it gives a sense of understanding where now, because everything is on the blockchain, we can go in and validate if we are really there. So it makes it simpler. Again, it doesn't mean that you show up with a sticker and you get a job, but then I'm pretty sure going forward every summit will actually have a digital component to it, and you will see a lot of these POAPs and stickers that's being given away in the blockchain.
So two things, right? After this conversation, because my mind is racing. First of all, wow, I was blown away because you must have gone through a lot of, either you have a lot of experience or dealt with a lot of projects and cases in the past. Because if the way you explained it, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool in my mind and in my eyes. So, and also when you said about the musicians, so you're saying, how is the musicians gonna benefit? Is it when they release a CD, it'll be a part of the CD and NFT? Is that what it is? It's gonna be like a bundle pack and
Yeah, so think of it this way, right? Whenever you think about a song or an album, there are different components to it. The first one is the actual lyrics. The second one is the album cover that you have, on a CD or on a digital copy. The third one is the actual song. Plus, you talk about the actual making of the song, which nowadays, we are seeing it's very popular. Like people really want to know how did you actually perform this. I'm pretty sure people would want to understand what goes behind this podcast. Even for me, I was always on the other side. I was on the listener. So now, I see this thing, so I know, how this works. So it's a different experience. And when you have the different experience, it makes it much more enjoyable. Now, you can relate to things in a much better way. Now, I'm pretty sure, since I'm doing this podcast, now I can relate to podcasts better. For me, podcasts were always like a go-to, when I'm driving. I know if my drive is 30 minutes, I play a podcast. That was, my experience or exposure to podcast. But now, it changed, the mindset. So, going back to the question, right? I think, it is important. I think I missed the question.
right. So yeah. So you were discussing with us that you about the musicians, right?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I lost
no
my
problem.
thought there. So for musicians, so basically now you think of it this way: you have all these different artifacts, that you can claim. Usually, we use this in a marketing. We send all this out there in the marketing, and we start talking to people in different forums and trying to see, if there is a liking. But now with NFT, what we have actually done is you have taken these pieces of art and say, we release this art to an audience of like-minded people. Okay? And along with this, we are saying the moment you get an NFT, I think one of the best examples out there is the artist, he goes by Blau. He was the, I think, pioneer in music NFTs. He sold his song, which was released in 2018 for over $11.6 million.
Wow.
It's just crazy. Again, not everyone is Blau, not everyone can make that kind of money. But then when you look at it, is there a possibility that anyone can be a Blau? Yes, because of the way how things are worked. So now from an artist standpoint, right, it is not only important for you to say, okay, I'll do an NFT, but it is more important for you to actually perform better and better. So that is the incentive for an artist, because you are now directly talking to the customer. Because previously, you go via Spotify, and Spotify is the one which promotes and does their things. In now here, you are directly talking to your end user, so you get to hear directly from them.
I am so blown away the way you explain it, because it is you don't understand. It's very exciting the way how intuitive you explain it to the community. I in my mind I was like, what, this is one of the path that the artist or the end user or whatever you want to call it that are starting something, and they could still reap their rewards at the end, and using the proper technology, they can get there. Either a short time or a long time, it doesn't matter. They'll get there.
Yeah, they'll get there.
Yeah.
I think that is a very fair statement to say it. And also, if you see culturally, right now, the way the teachings that happen in school and the market outside, it's different.
Yes.
So, as young students, I get, I would say, more varied information in a good way from forums like Discords, Reddits, than which happens in school. Because again, school is bounded by a certain way of teaching. Certain things can only be taught as part of your syllabus. but you get a great deal of information outside. So with all this extra information, and when you know that you can really, it doesn't really matter, if you are a newbie or you are super experienced, the application or the technology treats you equally. So think of it this way, you could be a brand new artist, right now coming out of school, from art school. The only thing that you ever knew is, taking a pencil and making some sketches.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you're explaining these things and it's, I don't, you know, we gotta go more in depth on your explanation because it's mind blowing the way because it gives the aha moment for people. It gives that light bulb that say, wow, is this what it is? And it's and the way you explain it, I know I'm being repetitive, but it's just to me it's phenomenal.
Oh, thank you so much, Ed. And yeah, I was there, I was in the same exact situation. I was like, whoa. Again, for me, I was looking everything from a technology standpoint. So you've been used to, over these years we have seen technology change. So so I'm used to technology being changed. So anything new comes in, we have that wow feel. We have, oh, this seems to solve a lot of our problems, and then we run into some other issues, and then some other product comes. This has been a known cycle, but we have never seen this kind of a direct. We call it D2C, direct to customer. This effectively, being used.
This is massive.
This is massive, and there is no end to it. There is no restriction that you could only do $100 worth of things. You could be $100, it could be $1 million. So there is literally no end to how you want to plan it.
So you could still use those other platforms, but this leverage you if you ever want to disconnect to those like a record label or Spotify or anything like that.
Yeah. So in that way, right? So basically now you are actually controlling who is listening and who is owning it. So in that way, you can be much more direct, in the way you are marketing, in the way because you get to know the pulse. I think the biggest thing that as artists was not everyone would spend time to get a proper feedback because it's all muffled, right? When you go to Spotify, again, Spotify will tell you your song is super hit in India.
And who knows who's manipulating those data, right?
Yeah, it's not clear.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not clear.
And it's coming from their technology, but not from which you're the owner of it.
Yeah.
So were you gonna say something?
No, I was just about to say. So again, they do make sure that the data is accurate, but then sometimes as an artist it's difficult because some songs that you think are really popular, you might not have as many streams.
Right.
So it's the other way around. So you never know what happened, what made this viral.
And this is why I am so humbled an opportunity to have a moment and interview you and your time, because the way you explain it, not a lot of people have that. They just say, oh, it's an NFT, okay, what is this, a digital art, woo, oh, the money's there, okay, let me go. But the way you're clearly explaining it makes more value why one should go ahead and invest on this technology and what's the pluses and the benefits of it. I hate to cut this short, and I'm looking forward to more discussion in other episodes. For our listeners in the community, where can they reach you if they want to reach out to you, and also anything that in your space that you want to talk about real quick, because we're running out of time here. Go ahead and let the community know. Thank you.
Okay. So I would say I'm pretty active on Twitter community. I think that has been, in fact, to be honest, right, between Twitter and Discord, you don't really need any other resource to learn anything about NFTs or crypto, because there are so many people and so many helpful people out there who just pour information. Like, I think that has been an amazing, like an eye opener, right? It's not like you have to go to Google and try to search 1,000 different links, just trying to find your one single solution.
Wow, you're dropping so much jewels and gems here, but yeah, and but we're in Twitter. What's your Twitter handler so that they could know?
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is it's Sundeep.eth.
Can you spell that out for our older listeners?
Sure, it is ITSSUNDEP dot ETH.
Thank you so much. And what other things that you wanted to say to the listeners before we wind down here?
I think one thing that I know, in fact, I say this to my friends. I'm saying this, to the people that I meet and talk, is spend some time to do your own research. Don't just go blindly by, okay, today Sandeep is talking about NFTs. Today, he said about a project, so let me go and spend some money on it. No, do your research. Things can wait. There is no rush. Of course, there are certain projects which are limited, and all these things would happen. But then this is not the end of the world. If you miss one, that doesn't mean you cannot get the other one. The only thing is, make sure you have your basics right. Do your own research. Only spend the money that you can lose. Do not go extra. Don't go overboard. In trying to make extra money, because you will end up burning stuff. So relax, and most importantly, right, think of it from a technology. Think of it from what is it that you can gain, what are the kind of problems that you really have, because anyone can build a blockchain company today. It need not be a super techie. It really comes down to what is the challenge that you want to solve. Say the problem out there on Twitter Spaces, and I'm sure if you are in the right groups, you will get the answer immediately. So it's been really powerful. So I would say Twitter, Discord, spend some time, do your own research. Don't jump into projects to buy on day one. Things can wait. Make sure that the contract is all proper. If you are a little techie, spend some time to learn and understand Solidity code. That would be really helpful for your future. I think that is the future where we'll all get into some kind of a smart contract development. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and we thank you so much here in Asiana Post and the Asiana Post community. Again, we look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me here.